I'm about to tell you something that I've never told anybody. A few years ago, I was living in Miami, and just after graduation, I moved from Iowa, where I graduated, and I moved down to Miami, right? Everybody thinks, wow, amazing Miami. I went and I started to work for a mechanical engineering company, and I was getting paid $2,700 after tax per month. And living in Miami, you think, okay, there's a lot of lifestyle, everything's beautiful, but at the end of the day, all of this has a cost, okay? And the truth is, I was spending a lot of my money just on entertainment and things that I didn't really need. So what happened, I lived in this amazing apartment in Brickell, and I was paying $1,250 a month, which was great, but my parents were also sending me about $1,000 a month, so now my income was at like $3,700 pretty much. And I was saving up money, and over the course of 12 months, I saved about $9,000 I had in my bank account. My goal has always been to completely separate from them, so taking a step away from that, I decided to move into an apartment in downtown Miami. It looks spectacular. The building looks spectacular, and I was going to pay about $1,600 a month in rent. And my parents were going to stop sending me $1,000. They were going to start sending me $500. So all in all, my income came down and my expenses went up. Why am I saying this? Is because in 3 months alone, I ended up going from $9,000 saved down to $700 and absolutely fucking broke. Okay? I was literally trying to pull every single string that I could to try to get out of this. Keep in mind, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to make money. I've always wanted to build something, right? Something meaningful. And I ended up hating myself. I did not take into precaution what I was doing. The reason why I ended up spending so much money is because I bought a coaching program that was $7,000, and I was gonna have to pay about $800 to $900 a month to try to pay it down after giving a down payment, and I was gonna pay it off in 6 months. So in those first 3 months alone, I ended up emptying my entire bank account, completely gone on the coaching down payment, on moving expenses, on entertainment, on going out, on Ubers, on buying myself things, trying to make myself feel better. After 90 days alone, I hated myself. I've always been someone who is positive, someone who always looks at the positive sides of things, and I absolutely hated myself. I would walk into this beautiful apartment that was a corner unit in front of the ocean on the 31st floor or on the 28th floor in front of the Bayside Marketplace in Miami, and I could not wait to get the fuck out. I hated it, okay? I literally realized that I was in a cell that was slowly destroying me. Those four walls, that apartment was slowly destroying me because I knew that it was taking up more than 60% of my income at the time. And I knew that if I didn't get rid of that apartment, I literally would end up losing it all on the street. And what I did was I illegally subleased the apartment out to this Russian woman. Very, very, very super nice. Luckily, she was a consistent sublease, and I moved out. But not the way that you're thinking. I had told my friends I was going through something really tough, especially this one friend of mine. Her name is Sharina. She called me and she said, Manny, This is what you're going to do. I'm not giving you an option. She said, Manny, this is what you're going to do. I'm not giving you an option. I already called my friend who's in Spain and study abroad for this semester, and she has an empty apartment, and she's going to let you stay in it for 2 months until she comes back. At that point, I was literally got goosebumps in the middle of my office, and I couldn't even believe what had just happened, but I knew that if I wanted to get out of this, I knew that I was going to have to accept that I needed help. And that's exactly what happened. She helped put me in this apartment, and I took very, very good care of this apartment. I got COVID in that apartment, and luckily, I ended up saving $8,000 in only 2 months off of flipping things, off of selling some of my clothes, off of doing miscellaneous work, helping people move and stuff like that. In those 2 months, I managed to get $8,000. I also saved a lot of my salary because of the fact that I actually didn't have to pay rent anymore, because now the sublease was taking over, except I still had to pay about $250 a month because she wasn't paying for the full amount of rent because I didn't give her the number. But at the end of the day, she basically saved me. And that's not the part that I'm ashamed about. The part that I'm ashamed about is that I got into that position at all. And from that point forth, I lived those 2 months in that apartment. I stayed in her couch for another like 4 or 5 days while I found a new apartment. And I went out to Facebook Marketplace and started to look for different apartments. I ended up choosing this shared bedroom. Basically, I lived on a cot. If you don't know what a cot is, I'm going to show it on the screen. I lived in a cot next to another person in the same room, and I lived there for about 8 months. I paid $400 a month, and because of that, I was able to start to save up more money, spend less of my income, and actually started to be able to build something meaningful that was going to propel me and actually started to create movements for my reputation. So ultimately, what I managed to do there is I managed to decrease my expense to income ratio. Earlier, when I lived in downtown, I was paying more than 60% of my income was already spent on fixed costs like rent, water, and car insurance, right? Now, everything after that, I have the option to save, okay? And by lowering all of my fixed costs, I knew that I could save more money, and if I saved more money, that means that I could invest more money, okay? That has been a lesson that I managed to take with me everywhere. Because of that is the reason why I'm in the position that I am right now. If I hadn't realized how important expense to income ratio is, I would be a completely different person, and I wouldn't be in the position that I am today. So the lesson here is, if you don't know how important expense to income ratio is, learn about it and think about, what if I had all of my expenses, my fixed expenses, and cut them in half? How much would I really be saving, and how much would I be able to actually use towards building my future? And that's how rich people think. They think about, how much excess income do I have that is not being consumed by my current expenses? Because at the end of the day, if you make $1 million a year, but you spend $1 million a year, you're still broke.